Hello, my name is Denim, and this video is going to be about Easy Terrain Generator. So this is a plugin I made for creating triangle terrain really quickly and on a huge scale. It also comes with a couple extra features, such as adding terrain features like trees and rocks, and pre-baking spawn points, so you don't have to calculate that at runtime. So I'll give a quick demo. Pixels per chunk, so they're not loaded right now, but you specify a height map and a biomap, and then you go to server storage, and there's a config file, and you can configure pretty much everything that's going on here. I'm still working on the config file, so right now it's kind of done in a stupid way where I'm not using actual classes and objects yet, but I'm going to change that. So I'll specify pixels per chunk. So to wrap your head around it, each chunk is going to hold a certain amount of pixels of the height map and biomap, or represent that much. So I'll just make a small map to show it. So 32 by 32. Yeah, which I want this one to be 256. Chunk size, that's like the width of the chunk. And then we got triangle thickness. 0.2 is pretty good. It makes it more accurate, right? Because when you have like sharp angles like mountain peaks, it kind of, if you do a bigger number, it's too big and it kind of goes through itself. Height scale, that'll change. So that's a modifier. It's like a multiplier of how tall the mountains and stuff are going to be. You can also flatten the terrain if you want it to be more like plains. So I'll just generate now, and as you can see, here's my biomap. The yellow here represents the desert, and the green here and here represents the forest. Then here's my height map. I just pulled this from some random forest in Timmins. Flying around, you can see that it's really big. Like, that's the size of the base plate, and you can hardly see the extent of the map. Let me fly to the forest real quick. There's another feature here, so you can change this in the config, but what I have it set to right now is if a triangle has more than a 45-degree slope, then it's going to become like a mountain texture. And then there's one other type of texture, which is for snow, so that's based on the height of the triangle. So if it's, none of these are high enough, but if it's high enough, it'll get snow on top. From above, it doesn't look the greatest, but I think if you go lower, like, it's really big. Like the scale of it makes it look a lot better once you kind of realize where you're at. So I'll show you what it looks like. We'll test here. Man, I look weird. Alright. Yeah, it's not too bad. Now, let me open up Task Manager here. I think usually it's only taking about 2 gigabytes when I'm running it in my game. And the reason why is because I use chunking. So all of this gets put into replicated storage, and then the player just loads chunks as they walk up to them. And then the server doesn't have anything in the workspace. Even though it does that, server's still authoritative. I got a good system going, but it's designed so it's really easy to use the chunks. They're just they're named with their number. They have a coordinate attribute in case you want to use that. Each biome has its tag for the biome it is. So this is forest, and we go over to the desert. These are desert ones. And then we got it's not really blending, but it doesn't have like blocky borders. So the desert does, like, it'll creep in on the forest, and the forest will creep in on the desert to make it look a bit smoother. If you're running what that little diamond part looks like, that's what it looks like. So pixels per chunk is kind of skipping pixels in order to scale it down into a smaller area. Rather than using 1 pixel per chunk of the height map, we're doing like 32 pixels. So it'll just kind of skip 32 and then fill it up like that. And then every single chunk's using 4 pixels total, 2 by 2. So I'll go over the features here. So features, this is all defined in the config, and then you put your the specific models you want in here, just in the assets, features, and replicated storage. Only thing to really keep in mind is make sure you have the primary part set, and then inside of these, primary part is here, and then secondary parts are all here. You can put other parts in here, like you add whatever you want, and it's not gonna break it or anything. But all the plugin really looks for is the primary part and all the parts and secondary parts. So I'll show you why. That's kind of a big map. I still have to optimize the feature generation, but it does work pretty good. It's not the worst. You can see it's already starting to work here. A little bit of lag. We're making cactuses and these little mini cactuses. They're all spaced out nicely because we're using Poisson disk. And it's already generating trees for us. Now all of this is configurable, so if I go to the biome, or maybe it's in the feature type, yeah, so I can choose how many I'm spawning, how many clusters I'm spawning, all that sort of stuff. If I go to the actual feature, group size 75, so let's try to spawn 75 in a cluster before it starts a new one. I'll just do this in real time so you can see really what's going on. And one thing I want to talk about is how all of these trees, they all have different shades of green, right? So if we hop over to the config, we can see that we set the limits for the primary colors. So the primary part, which is in my case the trunk, that's going to be 2 different shades of brown. So it's somewhere in between those. I use lerp, and then I put all the leaves as secondary parts so that they get some different shade of green. So you can see no 2 trees are really that similar. Right now I've only got it spawning 2 different types of trees, and you can see that it's kind of biome defined. So we got cactuses spawning in the desert, and then trees spawning in the forest biome. And one more thing you could do to optimize this further, because having all these trees and whatnot, it's like thousands of parts, and that's going to cause lag and memory issues. So what you can do is only place the trunks, and then just have the leaves kind of on as in replicated storage, and you can just spawn those in on the client whenever they're in a loaded chunk. Another thing I want to note about these is they're all scaled differently too. So you can set scaling limits. You can set the radius that they spawn in, height offset, so you can sink them into the ground a little bit if they're if you want to be up higher. I want to do like a proper feature class, and then have all of these be objects of the feature class. I think that'll be a lot easier for everybody. Once this is complete, it'll say finish generating features. But as you can see, it's still going strong over here. Now we're doing the pine trees. In the future, I want to make it so that it randomly selects a pine tree or an oak tree, but I haven't really bothered to do that yet. I also kind of like the look of having, because they do mix together, and then it would kind of make sense to have trees clustered together, because that's how they grow in real life. Each chunk is only made up of 32 parts. They're all wedges. And then all the features get put into its features folder. So for example, if you were making a game where you cut down trees, you can easily just index all the trees. Or maybe you want apples to spawn on trees. That would be a simple thing to do. You just pick a random chunk, pick a random feature in that chunk, make sure it's a tree, and then spawn it. And then I think, yeah, so we have oak tree here. I don't know why it says template. I gotta fix that. But every single feature has its type there. I think it says template because that's the feature type. I never renamed it. We got it spawning in little rocks too. These all scale. Everything's very configurable. I think that's a log over there. And as you can see, it's done. So we'll just zoom out. This is what it looks like from above. Very, it's pretty dense, and it's got nice little meadows, open areas. If we get a little smaller, here I'll just play here so you can see what it looks like as a player. Now this is without chunking, so it's a little slow. All these trunks are just models my friend made. It takes a minute for the shadows to load and whatnot. And I made them a bit taller just for my use case, because I'm making a magic game, right? And I want to make sure players can actually hit each other through the trees, but you can make them denser, you can make the trees shorter if you want. I think it looks pretty good. Another thing you can do with this, I mentioned earlier, you can pre-bake spawn points. So the way that works, I'll just do it now. It'll purposely, so it'll raycast a bunch, it'll try to get spawn points on each chunk that kind of avoid the features. So as long as it's hitting terrain, then it'll put a spawn point there. The logs are blue right now because I haven't set the, yeah, they're blue right now because I haven't set the proper colors for them in the config. I can just pick between like black and brown, so just pick some random. At one point, all the trees were like rainbow color because I messed up the config, and they were like, it looked like Candyland. All right, we're finished entering spawn points. That was really fast, as you can see. And now when I click on chunks, they got, well, not that one apparently. That's making me, there we go. I think I set the amount of chunks that I wanted to generate in the config, but as you can see, this chunk was selected. It has an NPC spawn point and a number of resource spawn points. So what that's going to do in the game, well, at least in my game, is resources will pop up on these chunks, randomly selected for each biome. And yeah, that's basically it. I can go into more detail on how I'm making that server authoritative without having any of the chunks even loaded on the server, but that'd be a different video. So my plans for this plugin, I'm going to keep working on it. It's going to be free in the toolbox, free to download. And if you run into any bugs, I'd appreciate if you reported them. If I ever get this to a point where I think it's going to be worth selling, like it's going to be valuable enough to sell it, then I'll probably raise the price, but I think people who already download it get to keep it anyways. And this map is huge, absolutely huge. There's the base plate. So each of these is 256 studs wide, and we got 32, calculator, 32 times 256 equals, so it's 8,000 studs wide. So that'd take about 20 minutes to walk across from one end to the other if you just go in a straight line. And you can make them a lot bigger. Usually I'm making them at 64 chunks without any issues. So I'll probably play some videos here or something of some of the cool terrain I've made. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to let me know, either in the comments section on YouTube or you can reach out to me on Discord. Thank you for watching.